Hey guys, welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Mamadou Diallo. If you're new into this channel, guys, I am a full-time real estate investor, and so far I have done dozens and dozens, if not hundreds of real estate transactions nationwide, all the way from wholesaling real estate to fix and flips, buy and holds, rentals, Airbnbs, and I've helped multiple people close deals. And one of my bread and butter type of niche type of properties is pre-foreclosures. And pre-foreclosures, guys, is sellers that are behind on their mortgage, and so the lender is trying to take over their property and sell it at an auction. And today's topic is specifically on how to stop an auction. Okay, guys, I get this question all the time. Hey, Mamadou, how do you and your team, how do you guys stop an auction? So guys, if you don't know what an auction is when a seller is in default with their lender, okay, and they don't do nothing about it. The lender called them, text them, whatever, they don't get caught up on their arrears, and the lender decide, you know what, I'm going to hire a private attorney, which is usually called a trustee, and that trustee is going to foreclose on you. So they will take your property and sell it at the auction, and you will find yourself on the street. Most sellers, if you ever run into a seller that is going through an auction, you will notice they will always come to you at the last minute. They will shut the door on you. The first time you call them, they will be like, hey, I got it handled, I don't need help, whatever. And if you don't follow up, they will always text you. As a matter of fact, the last two auctions we've pushed, which is virtually in Texas, we literally stopped the auction 5 minutes before the auction, and one of them we had to reverse the auction. It was a HOA that is foreclosing, and we had to reverse the auction. What that means is the seller actually got foreclosed on, and 5 minutes later, because we wrote a check to pay off the lien, they reversed the auction. So they took the property off auction, and we got the property back. But the reality is, these sellers, guys, they're usually natural procrastinators. They don't do anything. The first time you get in touch with them, they will act like they got it handled. They don't want to talk to you. They shut the door, right? They're ashamed of whatever they're going through. And so with that being said, today's video is all about how do you postpone an auction. When they reach out to you, you always have a highly time crunch. It's usually a time ticking bomb. Okay, so you got to act fast. So the first thing first I want you to know is that you need to expect spending multiple hours on the phone. Okay, because the first thing that you need to do when you're working with a seller that have an auction date coming up, you have to call the lender. Okay, here's the first mistake you need to avoid. Usually, and that happened to me before on my first short sale property that we've done, I called the lender, which was Wells Fargo, and the person that was talking to on the phone told me, hey, you have to call the trustee, right? That's the private attorney that the bank hired to do the foreclosure. You have to call them. If you're trying to postpone the auction, I can't really help you. And when I called the trustee was like, no, the lender is who decides, right? We cannot give authorization to postpone an auction. You have to talk to the lender. So they were playing me basically like a soccer ball. But then, with experience, guys, I understood that it's almost like, walking into Walmart and you're trying to buy something, you try to buy a product, you cannot find the product, then you go and talk to one employee, and that employee, just because they're lazy going to the computer and looking in the systems, if they have it in stocks, they just go, oh, we don't have it. If you don't find it on the shelves, we don't have it, right? It's the same thing with the bank. So the bank have multiple departments, and oftentimes, guys, all those departments don't even communicate with each other. So the first mistake is when you call the lender and they go, hey, go and call the trustee, you say, no, I don't need to talk to the trustee. You, the lender, is the one who makes the decision. It could be that the employee that you're talking to don't know what they're doing, right? They don't know how it works. And so they're misinforming you. So what you need to do is the first thing you do when you call the lender, that's the first tip. You call the lender. When you call the lender, you ask them to speak to the loss mitigation. Okay, the loss mitigation department. The loss mitigation department is the only department that can help you and answer your questions and actually tell you what's going on with the loan, what options is the seller still has, have they exhausted any other options, right? So that's the first step. Don't get fooled. You don't call the trustee. The trustee cannot help you. You have to talk to the lender. Number two, when you call the bank, when you call the lender, So if I call Wells Fargo right now on the property that I'm working on currently, guys, we're working on 2 short sales. And if I just call the lender out of the blue and go, hey, I'm working with X, Y, and Z, give them the seller's name, would you guys mind telling me a little bit, on what's going on and help me postpone this? They'll probably shut the phone and not help me because I have no authorization whatsoever for the bank to disclose private information. Okay, so what you need is, the second tip is, you need a third party authorization from the seller. Whether you're a realtor or an investor trying to help the seller, in order for the bank to talk to you, you need a third party authorization. And you can do it 2 ways, right? Remember, I said if you're working on an auction and you're trying to postpone an auction, oftentimes these sellers will reach out to you literally the same day of the auction or a day before. So you don't have a lot of time. Now, you can get a written authorization letter from the seller, right? It's going to have their full name, address, and then their social security number. Oftentimes, either they can give you the full social security number, so they write it on their authorization form, or just the last 6 or 4 digits of their social security number. You're gonna need that. But here's the challenge though, when you email it to the loss mitigation office, it takes them between 24 to 48 hours to process that document, and then they can talk to you. And when you're working on pre-foreclosures that have an auction date, you oftentimes don't have 48 hours. You have 10 minutes, okay? So what you need to do is the second option. The second option is get the seller on the phone with you. You guys call the lender on a 3-way and have the seller give the loss mitigation representative verbal authorization. Depending, which bank you're dealing with. I've dealt with banks before that goes, hey, this is valid for 24 hours. Some banks go, this is valid for 48. Some banks go, this is only valid right now. So every time I call the bank back and I want to talk to the loss mitigation office, guess what? I will need the seller to jump on the phone with me. But when I'm working with motivated sellers, guys, I don't care if they have a 9 to 5, if they're just sitting home. If they're highly motivated, they don't mind jumping on a 3-way with you and talking to the lender because they know you're trying to solve a problem and stop an auction for them. Now, what I also usually do is, if I get on the phone with the seller and the lender just for the first time because I'm looking to postpone, what I do is, if I know it's going to take a little bit of time for me to get a response, I am going to still have the seller, fill out the authorization form, send it to me. I still mail it to the loss mitigation office. But when you're on the phone with the lender, you should be able to, so first, remember, you go on the phone with the lender, then you ask for the loss mitigation office, and then you ask them to tell you what options you guys have to postpone the auction. Okay, so you can do it both ways, but oftentimes if it's a last minute where you're trying to stop an auction, you're gonna have to do a verbal third-party authorization. That is getting the seller on the phone with you, with the lender on the phone on a 3-way, and the lender is going to talk to the seller and will ask the seller, hey, do you give me authorization to talk to X, Y, and Z? And then they will get your full name and all that fun stuff. Then they can talk to you. Okay, when you're talking to them, then you can ask them everything that's going on. What options do we have to postpone this auction? What have the seller tried before? What can we do now? Remember, guys, you're talking to employees. Oftentimes, they don't have a lot of authority to make decisions. And so with that being said, you will talk to also different type of personalities. Some of them will care, right, that you're trying to help a family keep their home and not get kicked out tomorrow, right, and find themselves living on the street. Some of them care. Some of them absolutely do not care. Now, if you're talking to somebody that care, tip number 3, always remember, if you're talking to somebody that do actually care and is willing to help you in the loss mitigation department, make sure to get their first name, last name, and then their extension. So when you call the lender next time, instead of talking to anybody, you can just literally dial that person's extension number and talk to them directly so they can help you out. Because trust me, if you focus on pre-foreclosures, you will run into the same situations all the time. And oftentimes you will notice that some of the same lenders always come back, right? You have Wells Fargo, you have Mr. Cooper, so if you keep that contact, if they're really good and they care, right? They love helping people. So every time you call the same bank, just go and talk to that person directly that helped you the first time in the first place. Okay, guys, so first you call the bank, not the trustee. Second is you're gonna need a third-party authorization, preferably a verbal one, because with an auction coming up, you don't have time to do the written third-party authorization, right? And number three, make sure you get that person's information if you run into somebody that actually care. Those that don't care, usually personally what I do. So first, when I used to be a solopreneur, guys, I used to spend the time myself and talk to the lender. And I will be on the phone for 2, 3, 4 hours just with one lender. Trust me, I promise you it is, right? And so now, because I'm too busy locking up the next contracts and whatnot, I don't do that. So I have an in-house bank negotiator, and she called the banks and deal with them directly as soon as we get a lead. But if you're still a solopreneur, you can literally do this yourself, but you have to be ready to spend a lot of hours on the phone, and then you have to jump through hoops. I never take no for an answer. I'm really nice, but if you tell me no, then I want to speak to a manager. I want you to transfer me to a manager that can actually give me the answer that I want, because I don't need to go to talk to the trustee. I already know that, right? The trustee have no, guys, they have no authority whatsoever to push an auction. Okay, now this video today is not, hey, how do you postpone it, meaning what options do you use to postpone it. I'll do that on another video, but that would really depend on what has the seller tried before, what options do they still have left. This is why it's so important to talk to the loss mitigation office, and the loss mitigation office will give you usually the options that still available to postpone the auction, guys. Okay, so for more, I'm going to drop more videos about all things pre-foreclosure. We're actually building right now multiple series, guys, around pre-foreclosure specifically, because we love them. We do them all the time. We negotiate with banks all the time. We do short sales all the time. Like right now, we have 2 short sales in the state of Florida going. And so, we love helping sellers in pre-foreclosures as well. So we're building a whole series around pre-foreclosures. And so you guys look out for the link for that. And if you need more help for pre-foreclosures, please make sure you like, subscribe, hit the notification bell. Leave me in the comment what other topic you want to hear about around pre-foreclosures. I'd be happy to answer your question. This question on how to postpone auctions been hammered through my TikTok, Instagram, YouTube. Like, people ask me this all the time, because every time we postpone an auction, we actually post it online. And so I get asked this question all the time. But get ready. If you want to do this by yourself and you don't want to hire a third-party person that knows how to negotiate with the bank to talk to the bank, you have to be ready to spend multiple hours with the lender on the phone trying to postpone an auction. Until next time, guys, stay bold, be bold. Boom, boom, boom.